let's get you the headlines. Trucks loaded with supplies are stuck at Gaza's border with Egypt as a possible military incursion by Israel looms. Rishi Sunak flies from Israel to Saudi Arabia, where he had talks with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The agony of the hostage families as Israel's military says 203 people are now thought to have been taken by Hamas. Well, developments in the Middle East are top focus, but also looking at another developing story. A woman's body has been recovered from a river in Scotland as a major storm batters the country.
Let's take a look at today's papers. The Israel-Gaza conflict, of course, continues to dominate the front pages. The Daily Express leads with Save the Children as its headline. The paper quotes aid agencies calling for a ceasefire with fears that hundreds of children could be buried under collapsed buildings. And The Guardian's front page is dominated by a photo of destruction in Gaza, along with a warning from charities that aid relief may be, and I quote, too little, too late.
Let's have a look at the Daily Mirror featuring an image of Rishi Sunak reporting that he was branded Dr. Death. This is by one of his own advisors when he launched the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. It's come to light as part of the ongoing COVID inquiry. And lastly, The Times has a story on childhood obesity. The paper reports on new figures which show the number of children who are classed as obese when they start school is among the lowest in almost 2 decades.
I'm going to bring you a lovely story that I've just seen in the Times this morning, page 32. And have you ever heard of runner ducks?
No.
So runner duck, you know a duck waddles, yeah? Runner ducks don't waddle. They're an ancient, slender, upright, standing species of duck. They run gracefully rather than waddle, right? I'm telling you this because it will all make sense in a moment. So there's a duck called Hope. And Hope was born with a twisted leg. So Hope couldn't run and couldn't walk properly. And the vet said, look, the duck needs to be put down. Jennifer, who was a beautician who owned the duck, said, absolutely no way. So she went out and did some research. And she found an artificial limb designer, right, a 3D printer and some Velcro, right, and figured it all out. She nursed Hope with a hot water bottle and mealworms. And then she did this rehabilitation programme, which involved physiotherapy, daily massages, and got this artificial leg fitted onto Hope, and Hope is now running around.
All working properly? All
working properly. And she went through this thing, and then I was reading this, that this has happened before, this plastic limb, which is...
It costs a lot of money.
Well, what's the price of love? So she attached this limb, and Hope's all happy. But it's happened before. There was a turtle which chewed its foot off soon after hatching. It's named Peg, and it was given a makeshift foot. That was in 2018 with the help of pupils in Arkansas. And so the turtle's fine too. It's a nice story.
Well, you quite often see dogs who only have their front legs, don't you, with wheels at the rear.
Yeah, it's lovely. Well, the price of love. Lovely. Hope. There is hope.
A former lawyer for Donald Trump has agreed to a plea deal relating to 6 charges of interference in the 2020 US presidential election, a day before her trial was set to start. Sidney Powell was accused of helping tamper with voting machines in an attempt to overturn the results in the state of Georgia. Canada says it has withdrawn 41 diplomats from India in a continuing bilateral spat over the killing of a Canadian Sikh activist in British Columbia. Relations have been tense after Canada said India may have been behind the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar on the 18th of June. New Delhi has denied the allegations, calling them absurd. Now, social media platforms have seen a huge surge in misinformation, especially relating to the Israel-Gaza war, including doctored images and mislabeled videos. And under its new stringent Digital Services Act, the European Union has written to social media firms, TikTok as well as Meta, to formally provide information on the possible spread of what it calls disinformation, terrorist content, as well as hate speech since the beginning of the conflict. The BBC's Azadeh Moshiri has more on the potential penalties for these firms.
This isn't just a simple request for information. The stakes are high for these social media companies. And that's because of the Digital Services Act. Under this act, platforms with over 45 million users in the European Union must assess potential risks of their platforms to those users. They must also report that assessment and put in place mitigating measures. And if they don't, the penalties can be severe. The EU can fine as much as 6% of a company's global turnover, and it could even lead to the potential suspension of their service altogether. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, explained why this act was so important.
Thanks to our DSA, the Digital Services Act, we are able to oblige the platforms to take hate speech and terrorist content down. We know that hate speech leads to terror acts.
Now, here are some of the statements from the social media companies. TikTok has said we'll publish our first transparency report under the DSA next week, and they provided some figures. They said that since the brutal attack on the 7th of October, we've removed over 500,000 videos and closed 8,000 live streams in the impacted region. Now, Meta has said that we quickly established a special operations center to closely monitor and respond to this rapidly evolving situation, and these are their figures. They've said in the 3 days following the 7th of October, we removed or marked as disturbing more than 795,000 pieces of content for violating their policies in Hebrew and Arabic. And to put that into context, Meta has said as compared to the 2 months prior, in the 3 days following the 7th of October, we've removed 7 times as many pieces of content on a daily basis. Now, this request for information has come a week after the EU made a similar request to X, formerly known as Twitter. And so far, they've responded by saying that they've removed hundreds of Hamas-affiliated users from their platforms. But of course, as this EU process continues, so does the war and the spread of misinformation. And that's why our BBC Verify team has been looking into all of this. So do check our website.